Tucker Carlson was recently let go at Fox News. We were just talking about Succession, and it seemed like very much a ATN fire-in, that you sort of find out in this very sudden way, after you did your last on-air appearance. And he has, I believe this is still his only communication since then. Jake, if we have this this video that he's just done this like little 2-minute video about, he doesn't actually say the word Fox at any point, but it's like basically about his departure from Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, it's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people, people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also, a lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated. And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources. When was the last time you heard a legitimate debate about any of those issues? It's been a long time. Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it. Suddenly, the United States looks very much like a one-party state. That's a depressing realization, but it's not permanent. Our current orthodoxies won't last. They're brain dead. Nobody actually believes them. Hardly anyone's life is improved by them. This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. The people in charge know this. That's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. They're resorting to force. But it won't work. When honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink, and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail. Where can you still find Americans saying true things? There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there is hope. See you soon.
That's that's his pitch for Rumble, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing too. You guys probably have a deeper thought on this, but just aesthetically, to honor the late great Jerry Springer, it does feel like a Jerry Springer final thought.
Yes.
Remember? It would be like an hour of people that he paid $200 to throw chairs at each other, and they'd be like, you know what, this is actually about a deeper meaning here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which seems
maybe
like
you are actually the father.
But it does feel like, because I don't know, maybe you guys know more. I read a little bit about the internal reasons for him being fired. It sounds like it's probably something stupid, like he was in those private texts saying bad things about managers or something. But now he's trying to make it this big thing. But yeah, that's what it feels like. Feels like also he can't stop doing his show. You know what I mean? Like this could be a more laid back video, but he can't stop doing it.
Yeah, he's got to put on the tie.
Yeah,
and everything. Like, oh man.
I like that he threw demographics in there. He did the list of important topics like resources and war and civil liberties, and he just throws demographic change. I think Nathan Robinson put it best in his reaction to this video, where he said basically, I'd take him more seriously on this if he hadn't spent like 3 different episodes talking about how the green M&M was no longer fuckable.
Yeah,
So shout out to Nathan for that one.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there like definitive information out there about why he was fired?
I mean, I think, I've read a bunch of stories about this. I don't think there's anything definitive, and who knows, maybe there won't be. But so far, I've seen reports of the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, maybe a few other places that are all based on kind of like insider information sources, within Fox News talking to these reporters. And it seems like it was a combination of kind of, number one, the several lawsuits that were hitting, including for Tucker, being a thoroughly unpleasant person to the people who work under him.
That's not a deciding factor at Fox News.
No, not always. But it seems like it may have hit a wall at some point, and especially as part of this lawsuit, there was going to be stuff that was going to come out apparently of videos that they didn't want to hit the public. Tucker calling his fans postmenopausal and all this kind of stuff. There was the fact that all these segments he did on January 6th, the advertisers were like the big name, the really big blue chip advertisers were like, I'm not dealing with this person anymore. So that was part of it. And I think also it seems like there was a general sense that he thought he was bigger than the network. And I guess the Murdochs. And
Murdoch was like, honey.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, I have seen very, very little to no evidence that, his supposedly heterodoxical positions on war and liberties and played any real role at all.
He's the only truth teller about the Ukraine.
Yeah, that's the only one. That's the only explanation I don't believe, that he was just such a truth teller that they couldn't handle it. That doesn't add up.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. And as much as RM is completely right, I would not have made the connection on my own. But now that you've made it, I can't unsee it on here. And it does sound remarkably like the intonation and like rhythms of a Jerry Springer final thought at the end of the episode. But I will say that you do get a sense from that clip of, just how good Tucker is at projecting this image. That, I mean, I despise the guy, but like, honestly, if he hadn't, if not for the turn in the punch bowl of throwing in demographic change as one of these serious issues that we're not being allowed to have a debate about, like if he'd left that out, then like I kind of want to nod along to most of that video. It's like, yeah, cable news is all bullshit.
He's part of it, but yeah,
he's a huge part of it. It's a leading offender, but it's like, yes, it is all bullshit. It does distract us with nonsense. Most of those are important issues we should be talking more about. People should be, we should want people to sort of be less worked up about, hating each other over, sort of like constant cultural circus things and all these other things. Yeah. Yes, and yes. But I also would argue, have argued, so I've had a piece in Jacobin on Saturday saying this very directly, that, this is the character he played on TV. And he's really good at playing that character, but that doesn't actually mean that doesn't actually mean that that's who he really was. I mean, in fact, if you look at Tucker Carlson's overall career, he played a few different characters on different shows, and this sort of like bold populist truth teller guy was the most recent one. But he started off in a really different place, actually. Jake, do we have the Iraq clip? So this is Tucker on Bubba the Love Sponge in 2006.
These Arabs in Iraq aren't playing. Yeah. We're the only ones that are playing.
They don't like us.
We are the only ones that are playing over there. They're not playing.
Also so just awful.
They're animals, dude.
Awful.
They are. I'm telling you that.
I hate the war. I have no, I'm not defending the war in any way, but I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
And the way they treat women, I agree with you. Their culture is, but you're in their homeland, and you're over there as an American who they hate, and they want nothing more than the Americans off of their soil. So they're not going to play games.
They can just shut the fuck up and obey, is my view. And the second we leave, they're going to be calling for us to return because they can't govern themselves.
Yeah, I think bidets are more popular in the Middle East than here.
I like how very deeply concerned Tucker Carlson is for the treatment of women in Iraq. That's really touching to me. Guy who has a steadfast track record. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Carlson and this latest iteration of his persona is he was very good at threading this particular needle where he would say enough, he would give enough kind of populist-y window dressing to the things that he was saying to make you think, oh yeah, this guy is he's opposed to the establishment, he's opposed to kind of establishment politics, and he kind of he has a lot of reasonable criticisms of both the political order and the media and stuff. Yeah, this makes sense. But then it was a very well kind of laid trap where he would say that stuff, and then he would always kind of find a way to turn your attention, if you're the viewer, away from the actual problems into whatever kind of particular right-wing obsession that he actually wanted to people to focus on. And you kind of covered that in your piece, Ben, with I think the baby formula shortage is a very good one, where he kind of pays lip service to people are struggling to find baby formula. They're really hurting. This is all because of this is because partly the government's incompetence and the Biden administration isn't doing stuff. It's saying that it can't do anything when it should be acting. All of this is stuff that could, number one, appeal to people who are not particularly ideological, but also would appeal even to people kind of on the left who are watching this and going, yeah, I do feel like the Biden administration is kind of pawning off responsibility and just saying it can't do anything. But then what does he actually say is the problem? It's not that there was one that this company Abbott was spending money on stock buybacks instead of improvements to its technology and its facilities, which ended up kind of causing this these safety problems that forced it to shut down. It wasn't that. No, it's because there's this anti-poverty program that the government is running, and it's a government monopoly, and that's the problem. It's the government again, Yeah, it's just a standard neoliberal talking point. The problem is that there's too much government, and they need to get off the back of private companies.
These babies have had it too good for too long. Sucking on this free milk.
It's true. So he says, there's this program, the WICs, Women, Infant, and Children, is I think what they originally stood for, which basically provides low-income mothers with vouchers they could use to buy baby formula, which sounds okay on the face of it. But Carlson said, this is the quote, the problem right now is the Abbott Nutrition Company has made baby formula for the vast majority of WIC contracts. The government had all its eggs virtually in Abbott's basket. Unfortunately, Abbott just closed its plant in Sturgis, Michigan because of contamination. And that means millions of people who use WIC to buy Abbott products are forced to buy competing formulas. They're all doing it at once. So what he never does at any point in there is stop to say, well, why did this contamination happen at the Abbott factory in Sturgis? What does the FDA say about that? That would be a Google search away. Lax safety practices of this company, which one would think a bold populist truth teller would have something to say about. The sort of greedy, profit-seeking incentives that led them to have shitty safety practices and cause this nationwide baby formula shortage when they had to close down the plant. His focus is on too many of these damn low-income mothers using their vouchers all at once at other companies, and that's, in his mind, the singular cause of the baby formula shortage.
Right, and by the way, there is real government, whatever, incompetence or malfeasance, whatever you want to say, involved in this story that he could have called out if he wants to criticize the government doing stuff. I mean, in this case, it's that the government didn't do stuff. There was, I believe, state regulators had sounded the alarm about this. I think in 2021, late 2021, there were other warning signs that had been given to regulators, and they didn't act on it. And that's partly why that whole thing ended up becoming such a crisis. But the thing is that Tucker Carlson doesn't want the government to do stuff. He doesn't want the state to step in and to make sure that that private companies are acting the way they should be and that they're actually following safety practices. He wants private companies to be allowed to do what they want.
Put arsenic in the baby formula.
So what's the government whatever incompetence supposedly that he ends up targeting? Oh, it's the fact that there's a program for the poor, that there's handouts being given out to people who are struggling.
Well, actually, so I'd be curious if about when this guy first appeared at each of your TV sets, because I think I could remember pretty exactly. But
in the bow tie era?
Yeah, bow tie era, probably. Yeah, definitely. I remember, of course, the Jon Stewart thing where Jon Stewart was giving him a hard time was probably because he was, I don't know, he was definitely not the force that he is now. Back then, he was just sort of a goofball who Jon Stewart made fun of. That was pretty much, that's how I remember him during that time.
Yeah, CNN used to have the show Crossfire, which it was at it was like a liberal and a conservative arguing about the news, which is look, not a format I'm even necessarily against. I think it's good to have people get different perspectives in the same show. I think
now we only have that on Bill Maher, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Shout out to
5 minutes of it, and that's it.
Going on Bill Maher. But yeah, right. I think Crossfire was maybe a particularly dumb version of it, right? But it's that was the idea. And originally, I don't know if there's one before him. I remember the first conservative being Pat Buchanan, and so make whatever Crossfire jokes you want, want to make about that. But then there was, and it might have been Mary Madeline for a minute. But anyway, yeah.
Oh, I forgot about her. Yeah.
That it was
James Carville's wife, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The married
the married opponents, I guess.
Yeah. The rival spin doctors.
Rivals. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it shows that both corporate liberals and right-wing reactionaries can actually find stuff to agree on.
Absolutely,
it turns out they agree on a lot.
You know what I was thinking though? Maybe I don't know if you guys remember the Britney Spears interview, the Tucker Carlson Britney Spears interview.
No, I actually don't remember.
That was making the rounds. Yeah, what happened there?
It was when Britney Spears kissed Madonna on a VMA thing or something, and it's a funny interview. It's a very awkward, embarrassing, but it's a classic. I think that might be the one I remember the most.
Well, so he was disapproving of this. I can only assume, given this was in the 2000s.
He was just kind of he was asking her questions like, "Would you ever kiss a girl again?" And she was like, "What?" She was shocked. It was that kind of thing. Okay. It was just a really dumb, sort of sensational interview where she's chewing gum really loud the whole time. It's really funny.
I remember. Yeah, the clip that was making the rounds was him asking very seriously. So. Yeah. How much Pepsi do you actually drink?
Yes.
And
yes.
I was going to say that it's quite different from his green M&M stance, the bold stance he took in that controversy. But clearly, it's actually I got to give him a hand. He's always been consistently horny.
Yes. Well, I have to say, I saw a chat here in Ben Burgis's audience. There are some green M&M stands in here. So
yeah, somebody. Yeah, there's at least one person saying that as a good ally, they would still nail the green M&M now.
Absolutely.
Androgynous M&M, yeah.
Exactly. So I remember when Tucker, definitely the first time I saw Tucker on TV, he was doing the conservative character on Crossfire, and he was like, aesthetically at least, certainly a very different kind of conservative back then. I mean, he was anybody who read the Chapo book from several years ago, is the kind of conservative in their taxonomy there. They called a bow tie dipshit, there's like probably who they're thinking of primarily there. He wore a bow tie, and he initially had this like very straight down the line defense of the Bush administration in the early years of the war on terror. In fact, I believe I have to track down the clip, so it's possible I'm misremembering this, but I believe I can remember seeing Tucker on Crossfire defending indefinite detention. I think in an argument with Paul Begala. I think if I'm remembering correctly, Begala was taking the centrist position that maybe we could have like military tribunals for suspected terrorists, but not actually indefinite detention. And Tucker was like, no, just lock him up.
There's a clip too. There's a really weird clip that I dug up. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where Hillary Clinton comes on the show. Have you seen that one?
No.
She brings him a cake because he said something that she wouldn't sell a certain number of books, and if he did, he would eat his shoe or something like that. He was doing the Werner Herzog thing of he would eat his shoe.
Yeah.
And she brought him a cake shaped like a shoe. And the video is bizarre because they're like joking, like they're like best buds or something. It's
But he didn't need a real shoe. I mean, Werner Herzog showed it can be done, but like a coward, he refused to challenge.
He boiled it, right?
I believe he like stewed it for like an entire day or something. This is not the first time I came across Tucker Carlson, but it is an interesting little throwback to the pre-Trump era. I'm going to post it in the chat we have here on the show. It's an Esquire interview that Tucker Carlson did with Jeb Bush in 2009. So this is the very start of the Obama era, where like Jeb Bush is kind of presented as this guy's going to be the future leader of the Republican Party, and it's all about how Obama's exploding the deficit and so on and so forth. Of course, you can't imagine the post 2016 Tucker Carlson taking such a stance, but that shows you that fundamental fact about him, which is that like everyone on cable news, like the people at MSNBC that he performatively loathes, he plays a character. I mean, both Rachel Maddow and him, and by the way, Rachel Maddow and Tucker Carlson are like good friends, because
I believe actually among Tucker's crimes is that he inflicted Rachel Maddow on us because to be fair, I think she'd had a radio show before this, but I believe her first recurring thing on TV was being a panelist on Tucker's old MSNBC show.
There you go. And I mean, I think you should double check this. I'm not totally sure about this, but I fail to remember a single time that either Tucker has directly, I don't know why I'm using his first name like we're friends, that Tucker Carlson has either directly criticized her, or that she's done the same for her. I feel like there's a conspicuous absence of anything like any sort of content like this. And I mean, it's not a coincidence that both of these people, when both MSNBC and Fox have been sued at different times, I think even those particular shows actually, they both used the defense quietly. We actually just play characters on TV. We don't really believe in it and stuff. So you can't actually hold us accountable for the bullshit.
Yeah, like in court cases where they've argued that they're not liable for the things they say because nobody would take them seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Not a coincidence, I think.
Yeah, there's a great example of that in his last. I don't know if you guys saw, he's doing a documentary about eating bugs. Did you guys see that?
No,
I did actually see that one.
Yeah. Okay. So
I did see the comedy one.
Yeah. Right. So I guess there's a kind of, what would you call it? Like a conspiracy internet trope where I don't exactly know what it is. It's basically, if we do anything about climate change, it's sort of like, I guess, a degrowth view of it or something, where it's, if we do anything about climate change, we're going to end up eating bugs. So he's doing a "We're Going to Eat Bugs" documentary, and it's very like, if you watch the trailer for it, it's very scary. It looks like Children of Men or something, But he did a piece on his show to pump up that documentary, where he gets a guy from Brooklyn who has a like a boutique restaurant where he makes like fancy like gourmet bugs on his show to give him bugs, and he eats like a chocolate bug and he's like, this is delicious. Then he eats the bug with the like grasshopper burger and he's like, it's delicious. So even in his like giving the internet right or whatever what it wants, he's not really in it at all. You know what I mean? Like he just doesn't, he has no connection to it whatsoever. It's like basically a joke to him.
Maybe his defenders are right. You know, he is growing. He is changing. He's you know, reconsidering some of those old views. He likes bugs now. You know, who knows? Maybe he really does oppose
bugs.
Absolutely. He's growing and changing.
But I don't know. I thought what was interesting, I mean, of course, in the texts that were revealed recently, like, okay, he makes fun of his fans, says they're postmenopausal, but I feel like you're going to find that in a lot of private texts of anybody famous.
Sure.
But I think the really shocking thing was how much he hates Trump.
Yeah.
And and he's just so annoyed, but he finds him embarrassing, which is so hilarious. And I'm indebted to my boyfriend for this, Anders Lee of Pod Damn America. Please like and subscribe. He pointed out that in 1999, Tucker wrote an article about George W. Bush, kind of along the same lines. Like he was embarrassed by him. Like he didn't like how he cursed. He used the F word, and that like upset Carlson. And then, and he just said like, George W. Bush didn't like reading big books. He admitted in an interview, and he was just so embarrassed by him. And it's so funny that he had this obsession with professionalism his whole career while doing M&Ms and eating bugs. And
I really wonder like if all of the financial stuff and him wanting to be on Fox News, like a big media organization, if all that was taken away, like what would Tucker Carlson actually do just for himself to like self-actualize? And I think he would do a show about Brooks Brothers ties and boat shoes. I think that's what it would be.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he really cares about, I think.
Entirely possible. But in terms of his public positions, so we were talking about bow tie era Carlson, where he was initially, you know, I mean, again, he was just like a very straight down the line Bush kind of Republican, and talked a little bit about bold populist truth teller trademark Carlson from Fox. But well, I know Bronco knows the answer to this question, but I'm curious if the other two of you do. Between not that this is the only thing he was doing, but like, you know what Tucker was doing from 2009 to 2015?
I don't
remember.
I was not keeping tabs.
Yeah, I was Tucker was off my radar at that point, I think.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. At least this aspect of what he's doing, there's no reason to be on your radar, but he was the think tank. He was a senior fellow.
Oh, no way.
At the Cato Institute.
Oh, yeah.
Not surprising.
No, I did read that. Yeah.
Was he actually writing papers, or what was he doing?
It might have been. It might have been a
just in name.
It might have been the right wing version of like a Sopranos no-show job, but
that's yeah. He's hanging out near the construction site all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I really want to know who else is on the lawn chairs with him in that scenario.
Dan Bongino, probably. I don't know.
But this is fascinating, right? So Tucker Carlson is officially a libertarian from 2009 through 2015, at least. And this is supposed to be, well, in some ways, there's continuity between that and what he's supposed to be now. You know, that there's, and, you know, to be fair, I actually think some of his better positions are consistent with libertarianism. As we will talk about, very selective anti-interventionism, but where there is the anti-interventionism, that makes sense as a libertarian thing. But economically, at least, this is supposed to be the opposite of what Tucker's about. I mean, the whole, Tucker Carlson shtick is that he's this new kind of right-wing populist, that, he's not like a corporate Republican, he cares about the ruling class and, hates the elites. So it would be interesting to see how much discontinuity there actually is between his policy positions in the Cato years and more recently, because, the guy, okay, so here's what he, here's what he wrote about, he said on his show about the effort to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He said that he said that it would cost the economy 1 million jobs. He said about Medicare for all. This is in 2019. This is definitely supposed to be populist Tucker. He said, Medicare for all is actual socialism, for real socialism. Healthcare amounts to about a fifth of the entire American economy. Elizabeth Warren, in this article, he's not even talking about Bernie, he's talking about Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren demands total control of all of it immediately. So how do you pay for Medicare for all? It is not a minor detail we can settle later. It is the single most important question about the program. Why do you think we don't have it already? Because we can't afford it. That's interesting. That's like populist Tucker's analysis of why we don't have Medicare for all. That we can't make the math work.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, he's not a real populist. Oh my God, I can't believe it. He's faking it. Whoa, boy.
Well, I mean, a couple of years ago, I think it was maybe end of 2021, I went through Tucker Carlson's broadcasts because I was curious. Okay, this guy's supposed to be an economic populist, but sort of conservative leaning with social conservative characteristics. So here's one way to actually measure his populism. What does he actually believe about basically every major issue that has come up in 2021, which you remember there was so many different major kind of questions about economic policy that kind of reached certain flashpoints at certain times. And you covered those, you covered the $50 minimum wage. He was against it, unless it's for large corporations, woke large corporations. If it's a small business, well, we have to think about the small business owner ahead of the rights of
he said he would be fine. He said he would be fine with a higher minimum wage if it were only for big business, which strikes me as okay. One, I mean seems like a way of squaring the circle of being populist, but also being opposed to any minimum wage hike that's proposed in the real world. That's like, oh yeah, supposedly you'd be in favor of this hypothetical version, but for now, no. But then two, like, okay, take it seriously. Like, assume for the sake of argument that he really thinks this. I mean, as I think you pointed out in that article a couple of years ago, Bronco. I mean, this is 60 million people in the United States work for or are classified as small businesses. So if you're one of those 60 million people, I mean, he's saying he's fine with you getting poverty wages to prop up your employer to, compete better, with
exactly.
Businesses. And like, I think it's incredibly revealing because, like, honestly, I think at their most sincere, all these, supposed conservative populists have the lowest rung of the ladder they could bring themselves to even really pretend to care about are small business owners.
Remember, this is not a stance he took because he's a lawmaker who has to find some sort of compromise to pass. He's a guy on TV. He can say whatever he wants. He can imagine any sort of world that he wants, and the world that he the sort of limits to his kind of ideal world. That I think 60 million people who work for small businesses don't get $15 an hour is not even living wage. It never really was, but it's well beyond that at 2021. So, I think that's interesting. Medicare for All is another good one. Basically using the Biden administration or the Biden campaign's talking points against it. If you're someone on the left who genuinely on the left who thinks, okay, Tucker Carlson actually had some populist positions. If Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden came out and said, we're going to give a $15 minimum wage, but only for large corporations of this and this size and office small business, would you say, oh my God, wow, that's such a bold populist proposal? Or would you say, oh, wow, this is more neoliberal, half measure bullshit? Of course, it'll be the latter. And so it's bizarre to me that people can give such leeway to Tucker Carlson to take these just milquetoast kind of positions that are constantly
how low are our standards?
Yeah, exactly. And that's not the only one. Another big issue in 2021 was unemployment checks, expanded unemployment insurance. A lot of people on the left were calling on Biden to not let them expire, to kind of step in and prevent all these Republican governors from eliminating it. What did Tucker Carlson do with his, the top-rated show on cable news? He said, this is stopping people from working. People are being lazy because they're getting too much money. They don't have to work because they're getting $700 a month. We need to eliminate it so that people can get back to work. It was the same with the Build Back Better bill, which, pushed by a Democratic administration. But if you're a guy who cares
next
about
Tucker documentary I want to see is one on how is a financial tips documentary on how to make it by on $700 a month.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to, on a Fox salary, it's hard to know, what. But that bill had all sorts of benefits for working Americans. If, presumably a guy who's not in the pocket of either party, a guy who's just a bold truth teller, talking about things for the benefit of the American people, surely he would say, yeah, hey, this is a really good bill and we should support it. And actually, if you're watching this program, go and support the president and Congress to pass this. No, Carlson never mentioned the Build Back Better bill. The months and months and months that he was wrangling over this to push it, he never mentioned it. The one time that I found anyway, that he mentioned it, he basically cast it as a form of racial redistribution, and that was it. That was how he summed it up in one sentence, and then he just moved on. So at the end of the day, you should judge people maybe not even on their rhetoric, but actually on the positions they take on actual real issues. And I think on both of those things, Tucker Carlson reveals himself as a fraud.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw any of his coverage during the 2020 primary. I saw a couple of clips of him talking about Bernie, and basically the only thing that I saw him say was that Bernie was pro-immigrant, so he's bad, and that was it. That was the way to just get that out of the way.
Well, to be fair, he also did say Bernie Sanders wants to bring back socialism, and socialism has always failed where it's always been tried. Look at Cuba and Venezuela. He also had some bold populist talking points about that too.
Never heard those before.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.